Noam Chomsky is critical of using the threat of terrorism as a political tool in this upcoming video. Here are some key aspects of his view in general. Chomsky argues that governments often exploit public fear of terrorism to justify policies that curtail civil liberties, increase military spending, and intervene in foreign affairs. This can create a climate of suspicion and erode democratic principles. Chomsky suggests the threat of terrorism is sometimes used to manufacture public consent for policies that might otherwise be unpopular. By keeping the public fearful, governments can push agendas that benefit certain interests. Chomsky argues that state terrorism, which refers to violence inflicted by governments on civilians, often receives less attention than acts by non-state actors. He believes a focus on the threat from individuals or groups can distract from the violence perpetrated by powerful states. Now, off to this very informative clip of Noam Chomsky.
Why the tremendous fascination with terrorism? The TV specials, the articles, the documentaries, the symposia, the conferences, and on and on. Is there something deeper that's being touched by this?
Very deep. I mean, see, look, it's very close to the Reagan administration domestic policies. It's important to remember that the Reagan administration policies are extremely unpopular, and for obvious reasons. The polls show this very clearly. On just about every major issue, the public is strongly opposed to the Reagan programs. So it takes a social spending versus military spending. When the question is asked in polls, would you prefer to have a decrease in, say, welfare payments or military spending, by overwhelming majorities, the population supports social spending and opposes military spending. In fact, much of the population is quite willing to see taxes raised to improve social spending. The same is true on just about every issue. On intervention abroad, let's say, in other words, international terrorism, if we were honest, the population is strongly against it by large majorities. The Reagan administration is for it. On, say, a nuclear freeze, public is overwhelmingly in favor of it. Figures like 3-to-1. The administration's against it, and so on. And you go down the line, every major policy program is unpopular. Now, this is a problem, of course. You got to control the population. Now, there's a classic answer to this problem. You frighten them. If you want to frighten a population, and in fact, let me just go back to another step of the Reagan program, which is even more obvious. An essential part of the Reagan administration was to try to transfer resources from the poor to the rich. Now, that's going to be unpopular. The attack on social spending is a part of it. And in fact, much of the Reagan program is turning the state, an increasingly powerful state, into a welfare state for the rich. The military program is very largely for that purpose. That's a subsidy to advanced industry. It's a forced public subsidy to advanced industry. Again, unpopular, and you can't present it in these terms. All right, now, what do? You have to get the public lined up. They oppose your policies. There's only one way to deal with this. Every leader throughout history has understood it. You've got to frighten people. You have to make them think their lives are at stake. They've got to defend themselves. And if so, they'll accept this attack. They'll accept these programs that they despise or dislike. They'll accept them as an unfortunate necessity. Well, how do you terrify people? Again, there's a classic answer. You find some evil empire that's threatening to destroy them. So in our case, it is now the Soviet Union. It used to be the Huns. Before that, it was the British, and so on. But since the Bolshevik Revolution, it's been the Soviet Union that's threatening to destroy us. So that's the evil empire. But here you run into a problem. Confrontations with the evil empire are dangerous. That's a big, powerful state. It can fight back. And you don't want to get involved with them because you might get hurt. So what you have to do is have confrontations, but not with the evil empire. Too dangerous. So the best way out is to have confrontations with groups that you designate as proxies of the evil empire. So what you do is you try to find essentially defenseless countries or groups that can be attacked at will and designate them to be proxies of the evil empire, and then you can defend yourself against them by attacking them. Now, Libya, for example, was perfect for this purpose. It has loose associations with the Soviet Union. It's a minor actor in the world of international terrorism against the background of anti-Arab racism, which is rampant in the United States. It's the last legitimate form of racism. Against that background, you can easily talk about the mad dog, and you ought to get down from the trees and all of this kind of stuff. And that works, that scares people. And furthermore, if you can manage to elicit terrorism, which some of our acts have done, that's going to really frighten people because it strikes at home. In fact, actual terrorism is very slight. You're much more likely to be hit by lightning. But people can get scared. And the Libyan, and a confrontation with Libya is cheap. You can kill Libyans at will. They can't fight back. It's a tiny, defenseless country. We can beat them up every time we feel like it. It'll make people here feel that somehow, our courageous cowboy leader is defending us from these monsters who are going to destroy us, most of which is a public relations concoction. In fact, the history of the Reagan administration has been through the Reagan administration, there has been a sequence, half a dozen or so, of carefully concocted, fraudulent incidents created in order to give us an opportunity to kill Libyans and to attack Libyans as a way of, always for some specific political purpose at home, like building up support for the rapid deployment force and intervention force in the Middle East, or gaining support for Contra aid, or one thing or another. And they're very carefully timed. As I said, this is a public relations administration. Their genius is manipulation of the public. That's what they're good at. And Libya is a perfect proxy of the evil empire. As I say, you can kill them, you can attack them, you can bomb them. People here can be frightened enough to think that they're somehow being defended by these terrorist attacks. And that way, if people feel sufficiently embattled, they'll support these programs that they oppose. And they do. I mean, this last spring was a brilliant exercise in public relations.
Overall, Chomsky views the use of the threat of terrorism as a political tool as manipulative and potentially dangerous for democracy. He emphasizes the need for a clear-eyed analysis of both state and non-state terrorism, along with addressing the root causes that lead to violence. Well, I hope you liked the video and give the channel a subscribe. If you wish, you can join the channel as a member, that would be greatly appreciated. This video is in a playlist on the homepage called Politics of Language. It is from an interview that took place in 1986. Also, if you would check out and subscribe to my other channel, Progressive Movement, link is on the homepage and in the comment section. It covers U.S. progressive politicians and their policies. Thank you. Now, take care and bye-bye.